Good evening, Twitch, and we are back. Sorry that took so long. Apparently, I don't understand why, because I wouldn't have been able to stream in the first place. For some reason, that my stream key added the bandwidth test. Now, if you don't know, if you don't stream, I'll just quickly explain. If you find yourself having technical problems, like connecting to Twitch or anything like that, you can actually input. You can run the Twitch inspector, and it'll tell you to run at the end of your stream key, question mark bandwidth test equals true. And what that basically does is do a live test of your stream. So instead of actually going live, you'll actually end up just connecting to the servers, so you won't be live publicly, but you'll be live privately. So you can actually see if you are getting a good enough bitrate, if it's too high, if it's too low, just telling you what kind of issues you're having. And apparently that got attached to my stream key between me playing Pokemon and then trying to connect to Dauntless, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't know how it happened. But in either case, the issue was resolved. Sorry about taking so long there. I know a lot of people just want to go off and do something else, and I completely understand that. But for now, though, this is actually one of the games I actually got to meet, not the developers, I actually got to meet the community manager and a couple other people who actually work there, and a couple other streamers and such. By Phoenix Labs, that's their company, and they actually are making a Monster Hunter game known as... Wait, it'll appear. Any second now. There it is. Dauntless. This is actually a Monster Hunter game. I never actually played Monster Hunter games until now. My first experience of playing a Monster Hunter game is actually with this game, Dauntless. But I got to meet the community manager and a couple other streamers who've been working really close, or actually now employed, like Yoshi, for example. He actually is working, I believe, as a contractor with Phoenix Labs. Which is, congratulations to him on that job. So he'll actually be working on, collecting feedback, giving feedback on the progression of the game. I will stress, just like any sort of closed beta extreme, I know I don't do many of them, everything is bound to change. So what you see here is not the final version. Think of it as the foundation of the game itself. So, with that said, you'll be just as the message says here, welcome to the Dauntless Early Access. As a founding member of our community, your voice is key in shaping the future of the game. There'll be rough areas, unfinished features, and other issues you may experience. We are passionate about working with the community to improve Dauntless. Please give us your feedback. Which, honestly, I really should give them their feedback. I have a lot of strong opinions about this game. A lot of criticisms I have with the game as well, from my experience playing with it, which we'll get into a moment here. So why don't we jump on in here? As you can see, it's going to be a very fundamental game here of what you'll actually see. They just finished doing their Halloween event, the Dark Harvest, which I also kind of had a bit of a criticism as well. Primary criticism I had is that I think event like a Halloween event for closed beta, which you can buy into this if you want. You can buy if you actually want to try the game now, because this is going to be a free-to-play game, and it's going to be basically competing with. Whoops, that's not the right button. Oh, that's not the right button either. Hello. There we go. Okay, wanted to use the analog sticks. I use a controller for this game. You can use a keyboard. Personally, for third-person games, I highly recommend. I personally prefer using controllers, unless it's done really well. I'm bringing, like I said, I never played a Monster Hunter game until this game, but a lot of experience I was able to bring in came from playing Dark Souls games. I know that's very tired and kind of tropish at the point, because games journalists ran that comparison into the ground, but it's very true though. If you're experienced with playing a Dark Souls game, you will have a solid amount of experience, a good foundation to bring into this game here. So this is Dauntless. As you can see, this is our town here. Looks like it's actually still looks like the Dark Harvest event is still kind of going. You see all the pumpkins around. You can go to any of these boards here to start up a hunt. This is primarily focused on hunting monsters. Very, you know, imagine instead of Dark Souls, instead of like going through a gauntlet of enemies and such, you just like, okay, go up to the boss. I want to fight this giant boss. It is effectively the same way here. So let me give a quick rundown here. You kind of build your character. You can change your appearance, thankfully, at any time. I personally am not a huge fan of the character creation process. I find it's an interesting take. I can actually just physically show that. I won't go too in depth into the character creation process, but you can actually see it. So you can actually talk to this guy here, since it's closed, since it's beta.
You're looking original.
So you can go to your appearance here. You can actually choose your ancestor, and it's from here that you'll actually start building up your character. And then, of course, you could choose your skin, hair, eyes. Personally, I'd rather just simply pick one character and then kind of build from there. But it's very customizable. As you can see, you have hair, eyes, nose, mouth, the head, the ears, jaws. It's pretty in-depth. It's a little hard to create the character that you actually want. I mean, even my character kind of looks kind of goofy. And it's okay, but it's not the way I would want it. But as for other places, you can also... Apparently, Monster Hunter games apparently are really reliant on items. You can craft your healing items for yourself right here. So you can craft yourself some greater healing potions, for example. Major healing potions, healing pylons, so you can actually heal as a group. This is mainly focused to... Not so much for solo players. This is for people who actually have friends to play with and stuff. You can solo to a point. Or if you're extremely skilled and memorize the monster's attack patterns, you might be able to solo it. Emphasis on might. As you can see, you'll have in the lower left-hand corner, it actually shows what items we currently have. We have a flare, we have an air support item that helps us find resources, stamina potion, which increases our stamina regeneration, healing, cornerstone of any sort of Monster Hunter game, healing, and then a revive talisman. I can if I get knocked down, I've run out of health, I can revive myself once. I can go in the menu here. Couple things, journal, so you can look at your quest progress, see what you need to do. I've actually gotten pretty far into this. I'm thinking about around the middle point for the in terms of progress of the game here. A lot of character customization. You can change your banner, change your emotes, give yourself a custom title. You can earn titles. I don't have any equipped. I'm perfectly fine with just being known as Tenmar. Social, you can actually, like I said, as you can see, it's all very rough around the edges here. Kind of have to switch the mouse. You can go to friends, recent. You can actually see people you played with. You can start up a guild. Options are very bare bones. Resolution, full screen. Helmet visibility, off and city only. Voice, very basic. Loadout, you can actually choose your weapons here. You start out with a very basic weapon, borrowed chains, and you actually have to build all of your other weapons. So there's 5 current weapon categories right now. There's chain blades, swords, axes, hammers, and then there's one more that will come up. So there's currently 4 weapons going on. I personally am using the chain blades. I think a lot of people are using the chain blades right now because it's apparently the newest weapon. But each of the weapons here control very differently, have their own little combo system. So depending on the weapon you play, will have a very different play style. Then you have your armor. Like apparently a Monster Hunter game, you also have to craft all of your armor, so you have to kind of build everything up. So we're currently wearing the Moon Reaver set here. You have to craft each piece individually, and to upgrade them, you can also upgrade them. So you can see I have a level 1 chest, level 5 arms, level 3 legs, level 4 head. To actually upgrade them, you have to go to the smith, and you need to use the piece of armor that you have, or pieces that you've earned from killing the Behemoth, to actually upgrade it. Very, very straightforward. And finally, you can your quick items. These are the items that actually will bring to you in the mission here. The very, very top bar there. That's showing you how many you can actually bring to the mission, and below will tell you how many you have. So you have 25 greater healing potions, 8 heal over time, 2 normal healing potions, 10 major healing potions. Those are all for healing. Then you have more offensive stuff. A Berserk increases damage but lower resistances, so it increases your defense. You can have resistance potions, healing pylons. That can also be, I guess, for support or a defense item. Physical resistance, you can increase your physical resistance. You do a team revive instead of a single person revive. And there's also your flare, which your flare is effectively telling your allies, here's the monster, or here's something important to find. There's a lot to cover when it comes to these Monster Hunter games, I've learned. Smithing, very straightforward. Also, probably one of the more difficult parts about it is you're going to be spending a lot of time having to gather resources to actually upgrade your parts here. So, for example, I'm currently using the Deadeye. Apparently, there's a bit of a graphical error there. That's fine. And it says here, it's a rare drop from the head of a Deadeye here. So I need to actually collect a lot of little pieces to upgrade my part, to upgrade this weapon one more time. So you're going to be constantly gathering, as well as simply fighting monsters. And the same thing applies for the armor set as well. You do also get a lantern, which is crafted by this guy.
And a good day to you.
And you can actually build a lantern of a choice. Each of the lanterns do something. I wish they actually said what it specifically did. But each one
Off you go.
does give you a certain amount of armor, and each will have a special effect which you will be using as you hunt the monster to kind of give you a leg up, give you a fighting chance here. We can actually look in our journal here. We can actually see what missions we have. So this optional one, this one's on the side, and this is the main story here, with like Claws of the Storm here, saying, fight a Stormclaw. Very straightforward. Lightning fast Stormclaw. This other one, side quest, which is more related to the gathering you will do in these games. There's one saying, kill an Embermane. Another one saying, if you want your Blaze and Shock license. This looks like it's for a title. And there's more just general ones like, here, kill 3 Scraves. And it looks like it actually just wants you to do it by yourself. Which is actually kind of difficult. Maybe we'll actually try that. So as you can see, they get kind of ridiculous. Kill 10 Rage Tails. Kill 10 Moonreaver Strikes. Kill 10 Deadeye Quill Shots. But why don't we jump on into a mission here. And we can actually see what we can get here. Did they actually remove the Halloween missions? Actually, yeah, it looks like they did. They locked them. That's a darn shame. So these are lists of missions I currently have unlocked. They're not done in they're not shown in order in terms of progression here. They're shown a little bit differently. So if anything, what we can do... What was that mission? A very simple mission. I can actually do one of the more basic ones. Kill 3 Scraves. We can actually do that then. I'll actually try that out. So a Scrave is actually one of the more basic, one of the more fun, it's not a starting monster, but it's almost near the mid-tier level. So we might find some people. You can always choose solo hunt by yourself, or you might get paired up with some other people. By default, this is simply a co-op game, primarily focused to be a co-op game. You'll probably be relying on other players to get yourself through all these fights. But I do have a lot of criticisms. I really should just like write a report or record some video illustrating. So we have another player here named Smashy. Like, actually, he might be... Yeah, it looks like he actually has the same amount of gear. So, this is one of the floating islands. Humanity is now living on floating islands. And the Behemoths... Oh, looks like that guy decided to leave. So it's just me. That's fine. So as you see, we have 30 minutes to do this hunt, to complete the hunt, which is basically find the boss, kill the boss, and get our butts out of here. So a lot of the time you'll be spending simply roaming around, trying to gather resources, which is very helpful. Kind of helps you prepare for future battles and such. It's always good to actually collect it, because, you know, to be able to sustain for any sort of HP, or to craft additional potions and stuff, you'll need to gather flowers, ore, and other materials. So you'll be doing a lot of gathering as well as you play this game. I don't know if that's normal for a Monster Hunter game, but that's the current pace of it. You will need to actually gather this stuff here. I cannot emphasize that enough, because crafting weapons and armors requires both resources and the drops from the monster. And looks like actually there's our Scrave there. That's a gigantic owl. I might die on this one. This Scrave is actually kind of difficult for a boss, because unlike the other owl creatures... How's it going, buddy? They actually have the element of ice. Thankfully, the owls are actually a lot easier, a lot more friendly to actually deal with. Ooh, and I've been frozen. So, as you can see, this isn't, you know, an ice. They'll use ice attacks instead of just simply attacking regularly. The one thing about the chain blades I should stress is that they can actually... Oh, you're not gonna charge me? That's a little weird. I was gonna wait for the charge. There we go. So there's a combo system in this game. For the early monsters, you can usually get away with it. As you can see, I got hit there. And this is me actually using my lantern. This is actually the Rage Tail Lantern, which will actually let you heal. Do like a, you know, an HP, a heal over time sort of deal. And also heal any allies if they were actually near me. So far, I think, if anything, most people I've seen play this game kind of get stuck at this level with a Scrave, which I completely understand, actually. Because there's one other part about this game in terms of hunting these monsters, is the loot system. But like any Dark Souls games, if you ever played a Dark Souls game, you have your stamina bar up in the left-hand corner. There's your health, which is the green bar. And there's your lantern, which is obviously the lantern. That'll tell you if it's as it fills up as you do damage to the boss or any enemies or any actual enemies on the field, I should say. And then the number there is actually the danger zone. So if that actually hits 100, if you are in a party, you will actually not be able to revive your allies. But we're a little bit over-geared for this fight here. Apparently Monster Hunter games are very scale. Like, kind of like you can end up kind of getting too many stats. So it kind of becomes a whole lot easier. Where the heck are you? You can also get frozen if you get too close to the darn thing. That's why I'm kind of going a little bit slower than normal. These guys have a lot of HP. I'd say overall the owls are probably the easiest to actually fight in the game, at least from my personal experience. Oh yeah, you can run out of stamina, which will prevent you to run. Kind of important. You gotta actually learn how to manage your stamina really well. There is a combo system in this game. Actually, let me just show it to you. I can actually hold select here. So there's chain blades. Pretty basic. So you got your light attacks, you got your heavy or your primary attacks, you got your secondary attacks, and there's a bit of a combo there. So that long swinging level of chains I've been doing, it's actually me using my combos. Kind of giving you a bit of a crash course here. And I gotta muscle our way through this a bit. Can. It actually controls pretty well. Inputs, you know, very much like Dark Souls, has a certain weight to it. So any attack you do, you're kind of committed. One thing you don't get, unfortunately, is the, like the invincibility frames. Which is kind of unfortunate, but it's understandable. Although you do get invincibility frames if you actually been hit and knocked down. Any secondary attack also will also drain your stamina. Your primary attacks won't, but your secondaries will. Interesting choice. There is no lock on camera though, unfortunately, so you're kind of freelancing your camera. So you're gonna be using the second analog stick a lot for that. But each single weapon also has a special skill. If you press the right button, you can actually, for the chain blades specifically, you can actually drag yourself towards the enemy. Use our lantern again. If you ever want to get right into the fight, if you're all close to an enemy as well, you can also press the right button as well, and that'll allow you to be an escape. And this is solely for the chain blades. This does not go with the hammer or sword or any other weapons. Each one has their own playstyle and is unique in their own regard. I think the reason why the chain blades are so popular is because they give you a lot of mobility and they give you a lot of range. So every time that owl has actually fallen on his butt, that is actually me interrupting his attacks. So there is actually a certain level of depth in this game. See, he has not even come close to dying. And what you just saw there, we actually broke off a piece of his hide, which is pretty much actually the reason why people play these games. And actually, you want to break their body parts off, so you can actually get new gear. Ah, darn it. And also, bosses can also go enraged. The only way to actually break body parts is by consistently hitting the same part of the body over and over and over again. So it's not like you just do damage and you will get a body part. You will get some by doing that. You won't get many. But from what I played, as a closed beta, I'm having the standard closed beta experience. There are things I like about it. I like the overall foundation, the novelty of doing a Monster Hunter game, because I never played one until now. And I understand why people actually like it. It allows you, very much the same way someone loves playing Diablo and stuff. You're always chasing for new loot, new gear, and just a way to consistently better your character. I think in this game, currently, the owls are the easiest out of all the behemoths you'll actually fight in this game right now. Oh, and there's the latency. That shouldn't have happened. Alright, we actually have to use the healing potion. So, we got 3 healing potions for that. Pretty basic. Always do have to be mindful of your stamina, though. Kind of being a bit of a brute here, though. Unfortunately, the game doesn't read your inputs, like, in advance, so can't exactly just press the buttons in advance and it'll do that attack. You have to press it at the end of those swings. And I'll never understand why that attack always hits me. Like, it's clearly attacking from the front. Come on. I often whiffed a lot of combos from that. But that's easily, like, my strongest attack there. I don't know how the other weapons shape up in comparison, though. I'm actually surprised that hit me. I will say, however, if there's anything I have learned, is that these monsters have way too much health for solo. To heal myself. So bleed there, any of the DOTs or status effects you have, there'll be a certain bar. They'll tell you how long it's going to last. Bleed's actually pretty bad. It's stopped by healing, which is pretty simple, but the further you get, instead of 5 potions, I only have 3, as you can see. Kind of changes the playstyle quite a bit. You also have a dash/roll button. Yeah, that bleed. Running again? This enemy has a lot more health than I thought. Thankfully, it doesn't run too far. And it will run directly to the next point. There's also those little geysers in the center. They'll actually, tell you, or they'll actually heal you if you go up to them. But you gotta be very careful. Just go use this healing pod right now. But this is definitely one of those games where if you have a solid group of friends or a core group, I could definitely see people having a lot of fun with this. I don't know how it compares to any of the Monster Hunter games, though. But I do have a lot of criticisms for this game, from the combat to the scaling of bosses and such. I didn't know the Scrape did a lot of bleed damage, though. God darn it. There we go. And he's down. Goodbye, Scrape. We didn't do a lot to him. You can actually break off a lot of pieces off of these behemoths. But as you can see, like, each individual hunt can take quite a bit of time. And for purposes of the stream, I won't be doing the, I'll be trying not to be using the rate your match function. Because I understand I'm streaming, and so my perspective is going to be a huge difference. Just at the end of the match, though, it'll always tell you, you know, here's what you did the best at. And if you have other players, it'll tell you what you did in comparison towards. And it tells you all how, like, what you've gathered. So apparently we didn't even do... Wow, we didn't break any parts off of the Owl or Scrave. That is surprising. And at the end of every mission, you will usually get an Aether Core. This is their equivalent of loot boxes. Phoenix Labs, the developers of Dauntless, are planning to remove these, and I personally agree with it, but I also have issues with the break system, breaking parts as well. Which I guess I probably should just describe all of my criticisms for this game in its current state. Just remember, this is still in closed beta. Everything can change about this game. I don't think they have a plan for the game to be released until they're probably planning to release in 2018, but still.
Hey there.
Oh, apparently that was actually the third Scrave I killed.
Keep those blades sharp.
That's actually very useful. I guess I probably should start with my first, I guess my first criticism, which is the gear, or more specifically, I guess the scaling of said gear.
What is it?
Oh, that's a lot of new quests. Take your data collector into battle against rogue Cherogs. You must learn why their blaze-driven powers do not appear to manifest until later in their life cycles. Play 3 rogue Cherogs. Works of life. The perils of shock aether are well known to the Ori. The way the Drask consumes and metabolizes shock are not as widely understood. Slay 3 rogue Drasks. Rogue Drasks are rogue monsters, are effectively the smaller version of the behemoths that you'll fight. Usually these can be done solo, which is actually one of the, like I said, one of the biggest issues is a lot of the time, at least currently in its conception in the beta, in the closed beta phase, it's very difficult to find a group of randoms to go and slay any of the behemoths. Like, any of the behemoths at the mid and higher tier. And they just want me to also slay 3 Quill shots as well. I think part of it is because, you know, there was a spark of interest, so you had a lot of people who were playing this game, streaming this game, and then, you know, it's kind of died down since they made their big announcement and big push on Twitch, which is understandable. You know, entropy is one thing that'll always happen. But one of the big issues I noticed with the player community, or the player base, from my current experience, I've only played this is actually day 4 of me playing this game. I've played it for 3 days now, starting last Friday, and I think overall I got a good handle on the pacing stuff, and which is why I have a lot of criticisms towards it. So, loot box system, that is going away, but every time you actually kill a monster, you can actually just go up here. See, we have a Scrave Aether Core, which is what we had. We can open it up, which acts just like a loot box. And the contents of these cores here consist of items. You can see we have an Ice Shard, Ice Glass, and Scrave Trace. These are all items that are used for crafting weapons and armor and lanterns, which will then in turn help you perform better in future hunts. But as you can see here, as you're crafting armor, let's actually just go down all the way to the Scrave. These are in alphabetical. As you can see, gear quickly can get outpaced. So we actually have your starter set, which is the borrowed set. You don't even have a helmet for this. Borrowed gloves, borrowed greaves, 21 resistance. But then you get on over to the Scrave here. 26 resistance with some elemental resistance on it. You know, that was the monster we just hunt. So, like, when you started out, you basically get access to the borrowed set, and then the Nasher set will be the next set of gear you'll actually end up. You don't actually have to get it. Like, that's one thing I've learned is it's best to just hold on to your hold on to most of your resources. So there's one thing that always constantly used is the monster's trace, which is what you get from every single loot box. But then you have parts of either it'll be a rare drop, an uncommon drop from the loot box itself, like this Nasher Greed. This is something you actually get from the cores themselves, or basically loot boxes. And you'll actually have to, as you upgrade the rank of the armor or weapons, they keep costing more and more. So, for example, we have this Moon Reaver helmet. I need more Moon Reaver trace, so I gotta kill you just have to kill a Moon Reaver. But then there's other parts. Moon Reaver speed, that's an uncommon drop from a core. Magnetic flux, that's something I actually collect around the islands. Reaver down, a common drop from the body of a Moon Reaver, so we actually have to break a piece of the actual behemoth itself to get that drop. If you don't do enough damage, or if your attacks from your team are not focused enough, you're not going to be getting any additional parts, which is why a lot of players are stuck in the early part of the game, because they get wrapped up in doing what any Monster Hunter game does. It's about monster hunting, so you'll want to farm that monster and get caught up and it'll get caught up in, like, I want to complete the Nasher set. Problem is, though, in terms of scaling, scaling's not that great. Like, this, so far, this is very much a wiki game. Very much like Warframe. This is very much a wiki game. You'll be spending most of your time. Let's just pick the first enemy you fight, which is actually a rogue Nasher here. Let's also just pick solo hunt just for something nice, quick, and easy. Something to do as we go through it. I think the scaling of this game is way off. The rogues are fine for, like, single player, which is overall good. Some are a little bit difficult, you can do with a duo. But the gap and how the gear in relation to the monsters you fight, the scaling to me is way off. I think gear is too... You have to rely so much on so much RNG. To actually get either breaking the parts of the monster to upgrade your gear, or getting the enemy to... or getting the core, the loot box itself, to drop the piece you need. So you're kind of fighting... You're fighting a battle at two fronts here in terms to actually progress, which will then in turn let you fight other monsters. I've spent so much time invested fighting fighting just one monster over and over and over again, trying to break a piece of the body, like a leg or the head, to get like a horn, for example, or a hoof of that specific behemoth. That'll never come. And so you end up hitting a very steep wall in your own progression. In your own progression system. You won't be progressing at all. You'll just come to a standstill. And the one thing that that's supposed to alleviate it, or help bridge the gap if you're not really lucky on getting those drops from those enemies, they come too late. I'll actually do an example when you get back here. Killing this monster shouldn't take too long. Just as an example of... Sorry, I'm still working on fixing my sleep schedule. One of the core issues when it comes to the gear is that you're relying so much on getting... trying to get this one piece of gear to drop, either it's from a core or trying to break a piece of the body, that you're, like I said, you're at a standstill. And because you're at a standstill, you're no longer able to progress, and you end up fighting the same monster over and over again. So this is actually the very first monster they had to fight. This is a rogue Nasher. It's a gigantic beaver. It's awesome. It uses gigantic tail to attack. So usually when you see like an enemy flinch like that, that means you've broken off a piece of their body. I guess we broke the arms. There goes the tail. And you can also stun enemies too if you end up unloading enough damage. So that was a very quick fight. Like I said, that's the very first monster you'll actually end up fighting in the game, and we are very much over-geared for such a fight. I'd say consistently right now, a lot of the bosses, Behemoths, past the game's not easy. This game is not easy. You definitely do have to learn a lot of the boss patterns, but once you get up to the mid-tier, I'll show a mid-tier fight next. aside from the owls, because there's a way to interrupt them. A lot of later behemoths, there's not really a way to utilize the combat system that they made, which is really sad. And I feel like it's a missed opportunity because the fault lies with the attack pattern of the actual behemoths themselves. So, for example, one of the higher end Nashers are a Drask, for example. They, a good Dark Souls game has boss pacing. There's those moments that just scream out, I can get a swing in, or I can get a couple of hits in, or I can really take advantage of it and lay into my opponent. This game doesn't have it very... It's not executed as well in its current closed beta state. And what I mean by that is that you'll find a lot of the monsters, you either can't really interrupt them, or they made the later bosses' attack patterns flow seamlessly into each other. It's hard to know if you actually can attack at all, never mind actually doing any of your combos here. So we have our combos with the chain blades here. Basic ones, just press X, just press Y. Press X, press Y, and then press X again. And then you have blade spin. 3 X's, you can hold down Y, it can be charged, and then press X again to finish it off here. Like I said, very straightforward, but all the other weapons also play a little bit different. Still relying, the controls you see at the bottom applies to everyone. Like I said, you can do a keyboard, but I prefer doing a controller. As you can see, it's basically a 2-button attack game, and you kind of just build off of, build from that. A lot of the monsters, though, or a lot of the scaling, I should say, in this game, isn't really all that great. So, one example here, let me actually just go over. When you go through the first hunts of it, hopefully you'll be collecting a lot of materials, killing a lot of the goats and rams and such through your adventures, collecting a lot of ore, collecting a lot of flowers and stuff so you can get healing items. But a lot of the ore is actually very, and leather is very important because you need to actually use them to craft yourself stronger items. And that's where this game starts to have an issue. So, as you hunt the behemoths, if you kill the behemoths, they'll unlock their weapon and armor schematics here. So we actually have a couple. So there's the Deadeye that came from a Deadeye, the Deadeye Pig, or Deadeye Quill Shot, the Rage Tail, which is an advanced form of the Gnasher, which the Gnasher was the beaver we just fought a few moments ago. The Shrike is the equivalent of the Owl. And you can create these weapons here, but as you can see here, actually getting the resources or drops from the bodies are extremely uncommon or even rare compared to farming the ores or leather needed, or the trace, which is basically a reward you get consistently from killing any of the monsters. So you have to be very, like I said, very careful. And one of the first weapons you get, the starting weapon you get is a borrowed weapon. It's actually the very first one here right at the top. It's very weak, but for the starting monsters, it's good enough. And you can pretty much hang on to that. But after completing the starter set of monsters, the game will then unlock the steel set, which is actually really decent. For what it is, it starts at 100 attack power. You can upgrade it 10 times, and it'll go up to 200 attack power. That's pretty good. But then here's, and that's really good for, taking on the starting monsters, and if you want to farm them, you can. But in terms of progression, that's where a wall, you run basically straight into a wall, and it's a very steep difficulty curve to actually take on the next set of monsters. And the Defender set is actually what you get. Is basically the one you can actually craft by just collecting items on the field and stuff. So regardless if you succeed in killing the monster or not, you should always have a baseline armor set, which is actually very nice. You start with the Bard, and then you can unlock the Gnasher, you unlock the Shrike, and then you get to the Defender here after you take care of those two. So, even if you're not doing a great job of killing the monsters themselves, you're not in trouble. You're getting yourself a decent set of armor as long as you're gathering. Emphasis on that. But then you get to the mid-tier. So say you're doing a good job, you're trying to get to the mid-tier of the fights, which is, it starts to introduce things like the Quill Shot, the Charog, and those are the start of the mid-tier bosses. And compared to what they give you, the Nasher set, the Scout set, and the Shrike set, those were all very, very weak. And it was only until I actually did the, I killed the Charog, I killed the Drask, I killed the Rage Tail, I killed the Quill Shot, I killed all of those enemies, and then the Sentinel pieces were available. Problem, though, by the time I got to the, by the time I was farming things like the Charog and, the Moonreaver and such, for example, I was already able to, the defense of the monster armors that I was hunting for that entire time before I had access to the Sentinel set, they were already better. And that's a problem. I think, if anything, a baseline armor set should always be introduced to the next tier you're progressing towards. So, like, the Borrowed set and the Scout set, that's great for the starting monsters. Same thing with the Defender. Getting armor set maxed out is a long road. Glad I got done with the Embermane. How's it going, Io Kronos? How are you doing tonight, man? Had to kill him so many, and that's the biggest issue. That's part of the course, apparently, for these Monster Hunter games. After talking to people I know who play a lot of Monster Hunter games, so it seems like it's par for the course. But in terms of the scaling, so players can actually have a decent amount of progression. The reliance on either breaking a part of the monster, like breaking the Charog, for example, extremely difficult to do. Extremely difficult to actually get parts for the Charog. This Burn Gillhide, a rare drop from the Blaze Vents. It's a rare drop. You're doing great. How about yourself? I'm doing good. I'm feeling great, actually. I'm now able to get back into my streaming schedule, streaming about 2 hours a night. We're going a little bit longer than normal. Did a Game Sharks challenge, a part of a team that take on games challenges submitted by people, usually primarily retro games. And then I moved on over to this because I was able to actually get a closed beta access code because I went to TwitchCon, and I got to meet the community manager and some of the other people who actually work on this game, because they were doing a little meet and greet at one of the restaurants at TwitchCon. So I actually want to make sure, say hi to DYoshi TV in person one more time, and also just see what this game's all about, because I've never played a Monster Hunter game until Dauntless here. And from my personal experience, there's a lot I have major criticisms about. Embermane, for example, that's actually one I have major criticisms about. Burn Gillhide isn't that hard to get once you know where you should exactly. That's kind of one of the problems I actually have, is it's hard to gauge how... I wish there was more feedback or readability. If you're hitting the right area, if there's a way to know you're going to break the right area, or just some way to tell, some sort of conveyance that you know that you're breaking off that piece of there. But in terms of the scaling, though, like I said, you got caught up hunting the Embermane so much. I got caught up hunting the Charog. I have 277 Charog trace. I've hunted the Charogs too many times. Granted there's maybe a closed beta, but look, I haven't even gotten anywhere close to actually upgrading my gear. And whether it's either through bad drops or the loot box system, you basically have two things that are working against each other. You have the loot box system, so you're relying on things to drop from the loot, from the cores themselves, and then you have actually something that is partially a skill check is, can you break certain parts of the body? Or as a team, can you break certain parts of the body? And even that has an RNG element to it as well. So you could break the certain part, but you might not get the piece you want. So it's like, I'm relying on trying to get this fiery tooth here, or my helm's at tier 5 here, apparently. Fire tooth is tricky, gotta break the head when he's enraged. Yeah, see? Things like that. I didn't even know about that stuff. You know, that's not even in the wiki or anything like that. This is, like, the way this game is currently being developed, it's turning into a wiki game. That's kind of what I have an issue with the scaling. I think the scaling needs to offer a baseline that will allow you to do the content, because, you know, going into Cherog with a steel, you know, Cherog, a Moonreaver, or the Deadeye, and the best thing you can probably get is, the one thing you would hope to have is the Sentinel armor. The Sentinel gear doesn't even unlock until you go through all of those monsters. Hey, how's it going, Demi Plume? Have the devs said anything about open beta dates? No, unfortunately they have not. So there's no specific date yet that I personally know of, towards the open beta. I wish I had a little bit more information of it. The best thing, honestly, they did publish a roadmap on their site, so you can actually go to the Dauntless website, or go to Phoenix Labs website, or actually sign up for their newsletter. And they're trying to be as transparent as possible. In terms of in terms of how the rollout of this game is actually going to happen, in terms of progression. But one of the issues, like, the Sentinel armor needs to be offered the moment you finish the first tier, so that even people who aren't doing well in hunting the monsters, so they're failing, which I've failed a lot of monster hunts, you know, solo or with a team. It's the first time you've heard about this title. It's going to be a free-to-play. You can currently buy into it if you want, but it's going to be a free-to-play Monster Hunter game. This is actually a company that's actually based in Canada, actually. Well, like I said, I think the Sentinel gear here should be unlocked the moment you finish doing the first tier of monsters. So, like, the second set, which is, like, the Rage Tail here. Like, the Rage Tail. Look at the Rage Tail's base armor isn't actually all that great. 34 is its base. The Sentinel is at 32. But you don't get access to the Sentinel until you beat the Rage Tail, the Quillshot, the Drask, the Deadeye, the Moonreaver, and the Cherog. You have to go through 6 monsters. 6 mid-tier monsters until you can actually access the Sentinel, which the baseline is 32. Here's the Cherogs. Let me just actually go to the tier 1 here to kind of give a better accurate, or tier 0. 36 is the Cherog. Go to the Moonreaver. The Moonreaver starts at 44 defense as a baseline. Just think about that for a second. Your baseline of the Sentinel is 32, and you only get that after you beat the Moonreaver and all of those monsters I've listed. That's backwards. You should be able to craft the Sentinel piece first, and use that as a means to get the Moonreaver set. So you can then also get the Charog set, or the Deadeye set, or whatever set you actually want, or the Drask set.
Take care, Slayer.
And the same problem also exists with the weapons too. You won't get access to the Arcanite weapon here. I haven't even created it because it's like, I don't need it, because there are other weapons I was able to farm just from killing the other monsters. Sentinel and Defender are useless, you think? You never had to use them? Yeah, you never had to use them because they came in way too late. Those are the armors that should be the baseline. Like, any single new hunter, as they're striving to craft the monster armors and such, whether it's for elemental resistance or just because stat-wise it is better, need something, because the amount of damage you take going from that first tier to the second tier is immense.
My weapons have no equal, except other
We'll do one more hunt here, and actually it'll kind of help illustrate my point. So let's actually hunt this Drask here. So this is actually one of the monsters I have a lot of difficulty with. I probably will die to this one here. So the Drask is the second tier boss, equivalent to the Moonreaver, or the Deadeye. Like that, or the Ragetail Gnasher. They're all on the same tier. And you can use a keyboard. I personally find it weird just because I'm more used to using a gamepad for any third-person action game. I played a lot of Dark Souls, so that's why. Like I said, I like the foundation of this game. I think this game actually has a lot of potential, but it needs a lot of work. It needs to have a lot of work done with it. But the crafting system, like I said, you need to have a baseline armor. The gathering stuff, I actually don't mind. It's nice to, you know, it creates that lull before you actually engage the monster. So you're constantly like gathering resources for the next hunt and the next hunt and the next hunt. And I think the gathering should always be, like I said, that baseline towards ensuring or increasing your chances for progression. You know, you may not succeed, but you'll slowly work on, you know, building better weapons. Oh, there's the Drask. That was actually nice and easy. Also, I just like this. So the flare system there, that actually tells, like, if you are in a party, you can actually tell, like, your allies, hey, the boss is over here. Or if you find, like, a resource or something like that, that'll be very useful for them. So here we have the Drask. The Rogue Drask has effectively the same attack pattern. We might actually do one other monster, just to kind of illustrate my point as well. But the attack pattern of these mid-tier bosses are kind of ridiculous. So, here's the tail swipe. Then he jumps over into a side. Well, still do his laser, apparently. That's my fault. Like, basically, my issue with a lot of the combat is that the monsters are too fast-paced in relation to the hunters, or the slayers themselves. Because you have this combo system that you would think, like, hey, I would want to use this. I want to use my special all my special attacks and stuff, but I'm not really able to. You're mainly stuck just using your light attack the entire time, which kind of defeats the purpose of an entire combo system. It's not that the monsters are in themselves difficult. It just like you created a fighting system that's supposed to incentivize its use, and we don't even really know what the benefit is as players. Once again, kind of more, you know, like I said, everything's closed beta. I keep letting myself get hit here. This is actually really bad. But it just, you know, it just becomes like a pummel of attacks. So actually doing anything, you know, actually making any sort of progress becomes a difficult challenge. It's a long time to gear out now, because yeah, I think that's apparently something that's consistent with all the Monster Hunter games. Is that apparently Monster Hunter games are very numbers heavy. So you're really relying on So you're just like always collecting better and better gear. Like either you can, you know, survive more or be able to hopefully dish out enough damage. We're actually just going to intentionally fail. There is one thing I actually should show here that also irks me, and I feel like it's cheap, it's bad game design. And it's very related, if you've ever played Dark Souls 2. We're intentionally going to die here for a specific reason. There's one more boss I want to show. Just to let you know, any sort of resources you do collect from the hunts, even if you fail, you do get to keep them. Which, like I said, that kind of, in my mindset, is like, okay, you're always having some base level of progression, so you can have more potions, have more resistance potions, collect resources so you can build those baseline armor sets and such. I think I agree. I think the difficulty in this game scales. It has like walls. So like it starts with steps and then it just throws a wall at you, and your ability to climb over that wall. The moment you climb over it, you've farmed all the resources, you've gotten a set of monster armor and stuff from farming that monster ad nauseum. On the other side of that wall, when you see the next set of steps, right there at your feet, is an entire set of armor and weapons that would actually basically like, why isn't this on the other side of the wall? This would have made climbing this wall a whole lot easier. And it's already basically given to you. There's one more monster I want to show. This is the Rage Tail. This actually probably also does a good job of illustrating my other point when it comes to the way the bosses are designed at the mid tier. I don't know what it's like in the higher, like the end game, the current end game in this closed beta. And I want to emphasize that. Remember, this is early access stuff. And I'm only being really critical because it's more of like glaring issues I see. That if they keep at the current pace they are, it's going to have problems. Or I think a lot of players will be turned off because I see most players I've seen in this game. And it's very hard for me to find parties at the mid tier because everyone is just simply hunting the starting tier. They're hunting those rogue Nashers. They're hunting the Shrikes. They're just only hunting those, and they spend all of their time and all of their energy fighting the first tier, and they're not actually progressing. And that's the problem. I think this game has a major progression issue, because even though you have the encouragement of hunting these monsters, and you should have fun hunting the monsters over and over and over again, there's a huge issue when you're not actually making any meaningful progression. So the moment you tackle that next boss, you just run into, you hit that wall, and you ask yourself, like, why did I spend all my time hunting this monster when I'm about to get a whole new armor set? Or I have a new armor set I can actually, get, and it's just so much better. I should actually point out one other thing, actually, after this Rogue Nasher. I don't even know why I'm collecting this stuff here. I don't exactly need it. Let's see, where's this Nasher? Where are you, Nasher? Where are you, Giant Beaver? Where's the Giant Beaver? There's the Giant Beaver. So I'm gonna, once again, I want you to kind of observe the way this monster is attacking. Because unlike the Nasher, the Rage Tail Nasher, any of the higher tier ones will always have something new to attack with. And of course they're bigger, which means bigger hitboxes and such. More attacks. So, standard body swing. I'm gonna be primarily fighting from range. Because if I just use the combo system, that's the attack. That dash there. If you've ever played Dark Souls 2, you might know that enemies will track you until the last second of their swing. And that's what made a lot of people hate Dark Souls. Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 2. Not simply like it just matched up with the original, Like these, you know, the beaver basically turns on a dime. So it has that homing attack element where even if you know, succeed, even if you dodge it, or the first one, he'll hit you with the second one. And, you know, with enough practice, it becomes doable to dodge it. But the amount of timing you actually need to do to actually dodge the attack is very difficult. See? Like, I dodged out of the way there, but because he turns on a dime, and turns so sharply, it's very easy to actually get hit. And with how fast he's attacking, and just remember, I'm currently using the fastest weapons in the game here. The chain blades are the fastest attacking weapons in the game. There's nothing faster. Not even the sword. Like... And also, if you're out of stamina, you're kind of foobar. Like so. You're kind of doomed if you don't manage your stamina very well. And that's the other issue. Is... I kind of threw the fight on just to let you know. But a lot of the attacks later on start to become homing attacks. So, if you don't dodge at the last second, you're going to get hit. And that's what a lot of the monsters end up doing. They have an attack that will just follow you, and you pretty much have to spam your dodge. You know, you can't just simply run away from it, or walk away from it. You have to pretty much spam your dodge. And if you don't have enough stamina, you're screwed. And because you can't use... You have to save your stamina for your dodging, it defeats the... Once again, it defeats the purpose of the actual combat system they are creating. And that's and this is a systemic problem. No, you're correct on that. If you analyze it enough, you get it, and it becomes really easy to dodge. But the issue I have with it, and the contention I have with it, is that you have this combo system. You have this fancy fighting system that you would hope these combos actually have some sort of meaningful purpose. With the way the later fights are designed, I don't see any Slayer worth their salt even bothering to use the combos unless they get unless the monster actually has the ability to be interrupted that will let you actually then use the combos. That's it. That's the only time I see anyone actually use the combo system in this game. Is if the monster gets enraged, so that leaves you an opportunity to attack when the monster leaves its enraged state, or you are able, if the monster actually has an attack you can interrupt. One of those three. That's the only time I see people actually really use combos. Everything else is just, they just use the primary attack and that's it. They save all their stamina to be able to dodge all the attacks because the attacks of the monsters at the mid-tier and late tier are too fast and too consistent. There's no lull, there's no flow to the fight at all. It's just a consistent stream of attack, 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 attack from the monster. And that's the issue. And if it's like that in the current endgame, and I can imagine they could be really sinister with that stuff, it'll be even more of a problem where you can't even use your combat system. Like I said, this is a critique. You know, this is effectively my feedback towards Phoenix Labs. I'm not saying, like, this isn't say, like, your game is bad, your game is terrible and stuff. These are just issues I'm seeing that need to... It's conflicting game design. But for the final thing, though, if you are one of those players who... I probably should have gone over this first. If you are one of those players who gets stuck... like I said, this is very much like a wiki game, just like Warframe. And you're looking to make sure you get that progression. There are two weapons I would recommend. You'll be using the borrowed weapons for a little bit. Don't worry about investing in building the Nashor weapon. Don't bother with that. You can build the Shrike weapon if you want, that's optional. But make the Steel weapon and the Drask weapon. Now, the Drask weapon, as you can see here, 115. Terrible attack power. But it has 50 electric shock power, so neutral, 115, 165 is weak, 90 is strong. So we're going to create the Drake Razor sword. We're just going to do it. We're going to create it. Look at its level 1. We went from 115 to 250. You can get the rank 1 Drake weapon and get 250 attack power. It's neutral. If an enemy is strong against it, it's just as good as the steel weapon maxed out. A steel weapon maxed out. Let me just go to my razor, the twins, the chain blades. It's 200. There are so many weapons, monster weapons and stuff, that you effectively don't really need to invest in. So a lot of the weapons are either subpar as you're hunting at that tier level, or they just become quickly outdated. Like the Drask here, I only need to upgrade this a couple times. I have this at 260, you know? So I only upgraded it once, those Drask blades. But the moment I can upgrade this here, I'm at 250 attack power, standard. And it has a shock ability, so it does extra damage against, I believe, ice, or I think ice is weak to electricity. It might be fire. It does a current rock, paper, scissors sort of deal here. Avoid Charog as well, really difficult to upgrade. A lot of the weapons and armor of this is difficult to upgrade because it's not just breaking parts that's an issue, it's the RNG of the cores as well. So you have, like, what was it? So you have the RNG of what's in a core, actually getting a rare, epic core, which that in itself becomes an issue. And then finally, the actual drops of a monster by breaking the parts, which you have to break the parts. But then there's rare parts of when you have to break. Like I said, I never knew you could get an item by breaking a monster during a specific state. You know, I'm sure Monster Hunter games apparently have this sort of systems. But it's, from what most people say, it's like they're able to progress a lot better in a Monster Hunter game. But then again, you're going up against like a veteran company, Capcom, who's used to developing these Monster Hunter games. They know what people who play their games actually want. Dauntless, this is a Canadian company, so it's a Western company, making their first shot at this, and they're making it a free-to-play game. So they're going to be learning a lot as they develop this game. And I honestly do hope for its success. You know, a free-to-play Monster Hunter game, I see the core. I understand now why people love playing these games, and I can too. I played Dark Souls, doing these monster hunts and such, playing with a group of friends. You know, has a very strong power. You know, can easily build a strong sense of camaraderie with the people you're playing against, or people you're playing with. As you're trying to figure out how to beat a monster, you know, trying to collect the gear and such. So you always have something, you know, all these little goals to always work towards. Instead of going like, oh, that's it. It's, you know, the game's over. So, but this is Dauntless, though. I like it from what I've played. There's definitely going to be a lot more coming out for this game. You can currently buy into it. You can buy the Founders Pack if you want to just start playing right now. But just remember, of course, this game is still in very much its closed beta. It still has a long way to go. I would probably recommend, of course, you know, always wait until... I personally am the mindset of, like, wait till the full release. But I might be streaming this from time to time. But one of the current issues, of course, is the player base is kind of low right now. It's hard to find a consistent group of hunters to do any of the mid-tier and higher tier. If you're just doing the first tier, the starting tier, you'll have no problem beating it by yourself, and you shouldn't have much of a problem finding other people to play with, because a lot of people are just currently caught up on just hunting the starting monsters. But that's going to be it for me tonight here. Let's actually see who else is streaming here. Ran a little bit longer than I wanted to. That's fine. Actually, right now, the one person here who's actually streaming, and I haven't seen him play this game in a long time, it is Flackblag. He actually is a Twitch partner. He actually recently got promoted to a Twitch partner. And he is actually playing Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, which is surprising, because that is a game he dominated on. He's actually been playing a lot of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and Fortnite and such. He's currently playing a lot of the Battle Royale games. So go check him out. You can give him a watch. I'm going to give him a host so you can actually see what he's like. He runs very late into the night, so if you're looking for any sort of late night streamer and stuff, nice and chill, playing music and such, he's your man. But until then, though, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed taking a closed beta look at Dauntless. I'll see. I haven't decided what game project we'll be working on next for games to beat for Beat the Backlog, or if I just want to spend this week breaking back into the routine. It feels really great finally being able to actually stream again. My normal stream times is from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific. But until then, though, thank you very much for watching, and until then, take care.